Okay, I'm being pretty delusional right now. So, I told you some videos ago that I dropped my phone, and so now the top of my phone screen is kind of smashed and it still works, but it's just smashed now. So, now, on top of that, my headphones just randomly stopped working the other day. Like, they were charging for a couple of hours, like they normally are, and then I was using them. 10 minutes later, they were dead, and I was like, okay, don't freak out. So I asked my brother if he had like another spare wire, like a charger, because my brother's like the tech guy of the family. So yeah, he's like the tech guy of the family. And I was like, yo, do you have another charger for my headphones? And he gave me one. And he was like, I don't know if this is going to work though, because I feel like it's the headphones. So I charged my headphones again, used them again. Again, they lasted for 10 minutes and then they died. Obviously, not ideal. That's fine. Obviously, these are all very first world problems. I'm very lucky to have these small inconveniences. But I've just been noticing like a lot, like things are not working out, or things are breaking, or things are like being too old. I had this weird realization the other night too that like most of my pajamas are probably like not helping my awful sleeping right now as well, because I just sleep in like really old crusty sleep t-shirts, and then the other night I wore like new nice pajamas for the first time and I woke up so comfy and well rested. I was like, oh, maybe I need to stop wearing my old crusty t-shirts to bed. So yeah, things are just, yeah. And honestly, I'm being very delusional about it, and I'm trying to see all of these things as like good signs and good things, because the spiritual people, the spiritual girlies, are always saying like right before big breakthrough or a miracle or a manifestation or a quantum leap, whatever that is, stuff will just start going wrong, things will start breaking. And this isn't like a bad thing or anything. It's supposed to be a really good sign that you're close to something really amazing happening. So yeah, I'm being very positive about everything, literally everything that happens to me, even if it's bad, even if my things are breaking. I take it as a good sign. I just think, wow, this is such a good thing. This is awesome. This is amazing. This is a great sign. Yeah, I'm just now deciding that like everything is a sign, everything is a good sign, and everything that happens to me, whether it's bad, is actually quite good. But also not being toxic positive, if that makes sense. Like, I can be mad that my headphones are not working, but also tell myself that it's a good sign, if that makes sense. Anyway, I have also thought of like another amazing metaphor for life that I think you'd all be interested to hear about. So, the other day, I was making fudge, and don't ask me why, I just had a craving for homemade fudge. And we have this small chocolate recipe book at home. It's literally just called chocolate, and it's just a bunch of recipes that have chocolate in it. Anyways, so I made the fudge from this recipe, and I kind of knew what I was doing, but it was the first time that I'd kind of made it in years on my own. It's a really simple recipe though. Honestly, dummy proof. If I can do it, anyone can. But the recipe called for like obviously certain amounts of ingredients. So it was 500 grams of chocolate and 400 grams of condensed milk. First of all, I bought 2 chocolate bars that were 200 grams, which obviously means there was like 100 grams of chocolate missing. I couldn't be put. First of all, buying 3 bars is insane. I was looking at this recipe like, oh my god, that's going to be so sweet. But also, like, I couldn't be bothered to like spend money on another bar, and I was like, you know what, we're just going to have 400 grams of chocolate, whatever. Also, then you have the tins of condensed milk, which if you bake a lot, then you'll probably know, or where I am at least, condensed milk tins are always something weird. Like, they're never 400 grams, they're always like 397 grams or something like that. I don't know the science behind why they don't just round it up to 400. So yeah, anyways, I'm in the kitchen making this fudge. It's like 8, 9 at night. I'm not really sticking to the recipe exactly. I'm kind of eyeballing the vanilla extract, as I'm sure we all do. If you actually take out a teaspoon, wow, respect. I take it off the heat, I'm mixing it. It's not doing what I think in my head it's supposed to do. It says in the recipe to mix until it thickens. It's not really thickening. Like, no thickening is happening. Whatever, that's fine. I leave it out to cool in the tin, because I don't want to put it straight in the fridge. I don't know why, but I heard somewhere that it's like really, really bad to do that. Anyway, what was supposed to be 10 minutes of cooling time turns into like 3 hours. I basically forget the fudge exists. I go to bed. I realise, just as I'm about to fall asleep, that the fudge is not in the fridge. So I check my phone, by the way, and it's midnight at this point. Cool, whatever. I sneak downstairs because I still live with my parents, so I have to sneak around in the darkness as to not awaken the grizzly bear, aka my dad. So I put the fudge in the fridge. I sneak back upstairs in the darkness. Awesome. I go to bed. Fast forward to the next day. It's set. I cut it up. I try some. It's great. It's amazing. I love it. Then I'm watching TV and my mum comes into the room and she's like, Molly, this is the best fudge we've ever made. Like, this is the best it's ever turned out, because we used to bake a lot, like, years ago. And I'm just sat there like, wow, awesome. This is great. Like, you knew that I had a talent for making fudge. But it also kind of made me think of last week's video about control and wanting things to go a certain way, or to have a certain outcome, and thinking about how I didn't really follow the recipe to a T, and there were some little hiccups along the way, or at certain points it didn't look like it was going to turn out so well, but it actually turned out better than I thought it would, and I got some really good feedback. I don't know, I know it's not that deep, but I just found it funny, and it made me think about how sometimes what you think you should do isn't always what you should actually do, or if things are going a different way than you planned, it isn't actually always a bad thing. It could be a really good thing. Also, side note, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like most of the time when I follow a recipe to a T, it never really turns out that great. But when it's my first try, or when sometimes like you haven't got all of the ingredients, so you just make do with what you do have, or you do it a little bit differently than how the recipe states, it always turns out being much nicer. So I don't know if I just have a talent for making things better, or if recipe books are a scam and they want you to fail, so you just buy everything and feed more into capitalism and never believe in yourself. I've just even growing up with making baking with my mum, recipes have fucked us over so many times, and when we just guess or switch something up or add a little bit of something else, it kind of always turns out better than how it would have done if we had stuck to the recipe. Anyways, sorry, this video is so over the place, but I want to talk to you about the films I watched last week, because I watched 2 films last week, which may not sound like a very big deal, but I cannot remember the last time I watched a film, and to me that is quite shocking. I'm not an expert, but I do love film and TV and just media in general. Film studies was one of my favourite subjects in school. I loved it so much. And then in college I did study media studies. So it was a big interest of mine, and it was something that I really thought I would take as a career path. I've ended up somewhere else at the moment, but I still love film, and there was a time in my life, especially at university, when I was sort of discovering myself as a person, discovering my genres and my writing style and what I liked, what I didn't like. I also discovered what films I loved and what visuals I loved, and how those worlds and those stories inspired me and influenced my writing style. They also just helped me discover what I want to write about and what stories I wanted to tell. And so from that, I got good at watching new films, I got good at discovering new interesting films and pieces of media, and just falling in love with especially the horror and the gothic genres and surrealism. That just really helped to influence not only my creativity and figure out what I wanted to do with my life, but just inspire me in general and help me see the magic in life, in the ordinary things, and really just inspired me to see things in a different perspective or with more of an open mind. I used to watch a lot of old Hammer horror films because I just love the gothic so much, and I think those films were just so beautiful. Don't get me wrong, extremely camp at times, but I think that's part of the charm. I think they were so dramatic, the costumes are so beautiful, the sets are so dingy and gothic, but also beautiful at the same time. And they are technically horror films, but they aren't as scary, I guess, as more modern films. So babies like me can still watch them and enjoy them, because The thing is with me is that I love horror and I love the gothic, but I'm also a huge baby that gets frightened and creeped out very easily. So there's only a few actual horror films that I can watch, and I'm not very good with gore or slashers. But Hammer horror just feeds that part of me that loves the darkness and the gothic and the monsters and the mystical without scaring me absolutely silly. So yeah, I have kind of made a promise to myself to watch more Hammer horror films, but also just more films in general. Saying that, I am now actually going to tell you the films I watched last week, because they are kind of on the same wavelength. The first film I watched really was just so stunning and beautiful with both the visuals but also the storylines, and just in terms of how it was acted. It was one of those films that I had wanted to see for a while, ever since it came out, and I knew that I would enjoy it, but I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, if that makes sense. It really did just make me fall in love with watching films again, and made me so excited to watch more films and see what else is out there, I guess. So the film is Dracula, and I on Prime it's just Dracula, but I swear it was Dracula a Love Story. When I tell you, my FYP was inundated and absolutely flooded with clips of this film to Caribbean Blue by Enya. From then on in, I was utterly obsessed before I even watched it, and I think it had a different release date in the UK because for a while I didn't really know where to watch it. I really wanted to watch it in the cinema, but I could never find where or when it was playing, kind of thing, for some reason. But yeah, the other night I had a little browse on Prime and I came across it. I cannot explain to you the utter joy and excitement I felt when I realised it was this version, but also that it was free and that I didn't have to pay any more to watch it, because the amount of films or things that I've wanted to watch and it requires another bloody subscription, or you have to buy it or rent it. Like, babe, come on, I already pay and I get ads, which honestly I don't mind the ads, and I wouldn't mind them if I could watch everything. Anyway, I digress. The amount of joy I felt in that moment when I realised that I could just watch it, and it was a film that I've been wanting to watch for months, honestly is an amount of joy that I haven't felt in a very long time, girlies, okay? I, first of all, absolutely adored the two main actors in this film, and the relationship between the prince, or the count, and Elisabetta was just so beautiful. We really only get a few minutes with them at the beginning to sort of be let in on their relationship and the dynamic of it. The love that they have for each other, oh my gosh, one of the most beautiful sequences ever. I watched a TikTok the other day where a woman was kind of discussing and talking about how young people don't really like watching intimate scenes in movies anymore because it feels fake, or it feels forced, or it's too perfect. There's no sort of realism or build up, it's just kind of there. And it made me think of that TikTok because this sequence, mind you, it's the first thing that we see of them and of this film, and they are intimate with a capital I, but oh my gosh, it is the most beautiful sequence ever. You can really just feel it through the screen how much these two love each other. It was so clear how much adoration and passion this couple had and these people had for each other. You really knew and had no doubt that they were just really precious to each other, and it did feel like the purest form of love ever. And it only felt like it lasted a few moments, which obviously is on purpose because the whole film is basically about them being ripped apart and then Dracula trying to find her again. But it was just so beautiful. The actors, again, I'm not an expert, but the acting in this film was absolutely chef's kiss. I was so invested. It's also just one of those films where, to me at least, it felt like it went by so fast and I was left wanting more. But I think that's the sign of a good film, is when you fall so deeply in love with the characters and the story that when it ends, there's a part of you that feels a bit unsatisfied because you needed and wanted more time in that world with those characters. I also just really admired the story and the plot and the different characters. It was the same, but it was also very different in the way that they did things. There was a part of me, before watching it, there was kind of a thought where I was like, well, do we really need another Dracula film? Do we really need another version? Don't get me wrong, I love Dracula, and I love all the different films and the shows and the media. But there is also a part of me that's quite cynical and is getting kind of fed up with the rubbish and the sequels and the do-overs that Hollywood seems to be pumping out all the time. I did kind of think, there was a part of me that did kind of think, do we really need another Dracula? And then I watched it and I thought, yes, absolutely, we definitely needed this version of Dracula. There's just so stunning. I loved how it was the same but different, the characters and the different archetypes and how they all slotted into the story. I just love when something gets remade and it feels like it's respectful to the source material, but also just not done for the sake of it. And I really felt that time and thought and heart had gone into this film. I've said this so many times before, but the visuals were just stunning. I was in love with all of the costumes, the hair, the makeup, the sets, especially the castle. And then when we meet Elisabetta, or Mina, again in Paris, that whole sequence when they're at the fair, oh my gosh, I just loved it. It was so magical and gothic, but also romantic. And my inner child just absolutely lit up at that scene for some reason. Like, it just captured my imagination so much. And yeah, like, just watching this film just made me so excited to watch films again about love stories and gothic stories, and just seeing that true love portrayed on the screen, but also making me think about how Dracula probably committed a lot of crimes in order to stay alive, and, you know, did do a lot of terrible things to a lot of people. But I didn't even think about that because I was just so invested in the love story and him finding her again. Which is another thing that I loved about this film, was just, I love when films make me question my morals, I guess, or just really make me reflect and question characters and their motives and how they align with my beliefs. I know it's not that deep, but to me it just really makes the experience so much cooler when I watch a film and it's still kind of making me question things days later. The next night, because after that I was like, okay, I can't just leave it like that, like I have to watch another gothic romance. So the next night I watched the French version of Beauty and the Beast. I won't try to pronounce the French title because I don't want to ruin the French language for all of you. But again, it was one of those films that I had seen clips of and already kind of had high hopes and high expectations for it. Just in terms of visuals and setting and costume design, it all just looks so beautiful. In terms of story, I obviously roughly knew what I was getting into, but again, like Dracula, they did change things around. It was a different version than I would say that most audiences are used to in terms of like the original Disney film and the fairy tale and the live action remake. It wasn't a musical, which honestly I love. I think it would have taken away from the story and the characters if it was a musical. This version was, or felt, a little bit darker, but still also felt light and magical at the same time. I will say, out of all of the versions, it is probably my favourite in terms of costume design and set, and probably for me, I enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed the original Disney version. I feel a bit bad saying that it's my favourite just because the original Disney version, the cartoon one, was like the first Disney princess film that I ever watched, and it has a very special place in my heart because it's one of my mum's favourite films. But I definitely enjoyed this version very, very much too. I really loved the design and the surroundings and of the castle and everything. Obviously it's this barren, empty castle, but I feel like they made it their own. And I loved the aspect of nature was sort of creeping into the building, and it was kind of becoming overrun by roses and ivy. Just looks so gorgeous. Again, really captured my imagination and my inner child as well. And now that I think back to it, was kind of a hint as to what was sort of the big reveal as to the beast's or the prince's backstory. And I don't want to spoil it, but again, like Dracula, I love the way that they played around with different archetypes and still had this sort of same characters but portrayed in a different way, or you know, they pushed the story in a different direction. I really appreciated the difference in the story, and it actually reminded me of when I was at university, and one of my favourite classes that I took was fairy tale and studying the origins of fairy tales and the different versions and the retellings. And I definitely saw some of the classic tales that we studied come through in this film, especially again. I'm not trying to give anything away, but especially with the beast's design, as well as the aspect of Belle having two sisters and three brothers. Again, just those little elements that changed the story slightly, but still let it remain a really lovely version of the tale that most of us know and love. Also, a side note, I really loved how the story was told. In other versions, we start off getting to know the beast's backstory, so we kind of know where the story's headed in a way, and we kind of know everything before Belle knows it, kind of thing. In this film, we're very much seeing most of the events through Belle's eyes, and we're discovering things when she discovers them. So we're going along this journey with her, and again, I just thought that was a really cool little change. So, like Belle, we're kind of going on this adventure with her, and we're kind of going in blind. We don't really know what to expect, and I just love that aspect so much. And yeah, this video was really all over the place, but I just wanted to reflect and talk about the films that I watched because I really, really enjoyed them, and my inner child is really happy and excited now to watch more films, and especially more gothic films. And yeah, I just want to promise myself to watch one film a week. I definitely also want to watch more foreign films, and I definitely want to watch more Hammer horror films, and just films that I haven't watched before. Like, I really just want to see what's out there and get inspired and let my imagination run wild and just notice all the magic in the world. And yeah, and hopefully that will feed my delusions. So when all of my things break, I will just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch another film and it will all be okay in the end. I hope you enjoyed this, whatever this was this week. I have no idea. I hope you enjoyed me going on about the films that I love now. These are definitely two of my favourite films now. They're on the list. And yeah, I will yap to you soon.